Okay, hey guys. So, you're probably wondering right away why I'm doing an art piece on Petit Dragon of all things. Well, quick story about this YouTube channel. About two and a half years ago, I uploaded a series of Yu-Gi-Oh videos where I explained the lore of some of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I think I did in Pachi, Wavering Eyes, and Petit Dragon. Now, these videos aren't really good. You can go back and see them if you want, but they're very short, poorly edited with a horrible microphone, and they're not good videos. But for some bizarre reason, the Petit Dragon video is my most successful video by a lot. Like, if you were to take all of the views of every single video I have ever uploaded, except that one, put them all together, you still would not have enough as many videos as the Petit Dragon video. And I don't know why. It's not a good video, and it has baffled me for as long as I've uploaded. I think right now it's like 23,000 views, and I don't really get it. But because of that, it's become a running joke amongst some of my friends and coworkers that I should just keep doing Petit Dragon art pieces so that my views go up. So you know what? Here we go. This piece is Petit Dragon on the sword that it later becomes down his life. If you're wondering why Petit Dragon is a sword now, or was a sword at some point, I'll leave a link for the video in the description below. But basically, Petit Dragon went through a bunch of transformations. Started as a small dragon, went into a bigger dragon, became part of an even bigger dragon, got killed, and turned into a sword for Flame Swordsman. I think that's the right order. I haven't really looked it up in a couple years. But anyway, so for this piece, I just put the sword on the background that I believe Darkfire Dragon, the fusion of Petit Dragon and some plant monster that's slipping my mind right now. I used that red and black background, and I kind of just went with it right now. As for the actual artistic techniques that I'm using, I wanted to just try something out completely random because I didn't take this piece as seriously as I probably should have. So what I did was I just poured a basic coat of like a dark red, and then instead of just painting with the black over it, I just very watered down the black and just did a black paint so that it would kind of like smudge and smear across the red. And then using just a wet brush with no paint, I just dragged the black paint and the red paint together to kind of make a smooth gradient. It didn't really work as much as I expected. It was just a quick little experiment I was trying out, because I've never really taken art courses when it comes to acrylic paint. I've kind of just been self-taught my entire life, except for like 1 or 2 classes back in the beginning of high school. But as for advanced techniques, I've kind of just been teaching myself. Like right here, you can see just water just starts dripping down, and I kind of just went with it. You know, as Bob Ross says, just there are no mistakes, just they're happy little accidents. So yeah, there's a lot of happy little accidents in this piece. The background took most of the time, to be perfectly honest, just trying to get it all to work out and get that weird wavy sense. But the reason I used watered down paint was because I wanted it to not look static. I didn't want to just draw a bunch of squiggly lines and trace them perfectly. I wanted them to like blend and smear and move around as if the sword was actually in some weird dark red and black void. And I think it came out pretty well. The background, I'm not sure what I would have done better. Maybe, I think it just takes practice in my color mixing and I should be able to get it down right. I was originally going to draw like the 5 heads, the 5-headed dragon coming out of the sword, and I sketched that out a little bit, and it ended up looking very cluttered. Because of the canvas size that I was using, where it's just an 8x11, I didn't have the room to draw the 5 heads without them feeling like cramped up, and so that idea went out the window. I also tried drawing Darkfire Dragon holding the sword of like swirling around the sword, well, twirling around the sword, and I sketched that out too, and what ended up happening was either the Petit Dragon insignia in the middle of the sword would be covered up completely or be unrecognizable, or it would just clash with the fire that was already coming out of the sword to begin with, and I pictured it colored in, and it would have just been like a very big yellow-orange mess covering what the actual sword is. So I just went with a simpler painting of the sword, and then putting Petit Dragon etched onto the sword in a darker blue compared to everything else. So here I'm doing just the hilt of the sword, which is a very light blue. I've never actually looked at Salamandra's art before on close detail as I have, and it's actually pretty nice artwork, all things considered. I did the little highlight here, which I like a lot. I like how the highlight turned out. And then I didn't know that the hilt was actually 3 separate sections of, I believe, steel. I think it might be wood, I'm not sure. Kind of fused together or like carved into. And I just did the carving with these slight black strokes with a thin brush. As you can see, the golden part of the hilt is supposed to cover up the blue part, but I decided to just draw the blue part completely and then cover it up later with yellow paint. Instead of going with a full darkened golden color, I just went with a straight light yellow golden color because I wanted to stand out against the already pretty dark background. Considering a lot of this painting is yellow, orange, and red, I just wanted to make the yellow stand a little more out, and it would have looked better. The sword itself is surprisingly not white. It's silver with blue. And I never really noticed that before because nobody ever uses the card. It's a very bad Yugioh. All of the Petit Dragon cards are bad, except maybe Five-Headed Dragon when it came out, I think. Because I remember using, I forget what I used. I think I used Dragon's Mirror to summon it. Although I think that might have been an illegal move because it didn't have any named dragons in its name. Not sure, but anyway, the card art for the sword is actually very light blue. And I liked it. So instead of just following like bit by bit what the original artwork was, I kind of just played around with the light blues and watered down paints, and kind of just wanted to do like random swirls of light blue, darker blues, silvers, and whites all throughout the sword, and I liked it. Instead of doing black outlines around the piece, I kind of just went for contrasting colors to make those lines. Like as you can see here, in the top left part of the sword, the darker blue is what shows the separation between that part of the metal and the slanted edge part going down. Well, not down, but going in like deeper into the sword. Near the bottom, I just went back with blue, went over it. For the actual sketch of Petit Dragon, I wasn't sure whether to like paint each individual detail of Petit Dragon, as if like if it was painted onto the sword, but then I realized that wouldn't look right. It would stand out too much and it would kind of just it would look kind of tacky. So I went with a silhouette instead of the Petit Dragon body, kind of just flooring out as if it was actually... Oh, you can see my mouth. That probably shouldn't have happened. I just noticed that. Oh, that is creepy and off-putting. Wow. We're just gonna leave that in there. It's too late to fix it now. Huh. Good to know for next time I'm recording. But, I have no idea what these symbols on the sword mean. They're on the original art, and I haven't really been able to look them up, so if anybody knows what they are, just leave a comment below and let me know. Or if they're just fake symbols that the art department used, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I would not be surprised if they did that. But anyway, I messed it up a little here, but I fixed it up later once the paint dries. But here you can see the etch of the Petit Dragon I started painting in with a darker silver. As if, like, if somebody was actually holding or creating the sword, they wouldn't paint it, they would just etch it out on the steel itself, so I just went with that darker silver. Instead of putting the original pose of Petit Dragon, I kind of went for a more artistic, like, fancier design of just having its wings stretched out and its body flowing down the sword. I actually don't like the art, like, the actual shape of the sword from the original artwork, because it doesn't really make any sense. If you look at this sword, if you were to hold it, assuming it was built to like the scale of a human being, it would be really short. It'd be more like a very big, awkwardly shaped knife than an actual sword. But when you look at Flame Swordsman's artwork, it's like 2 feet long compared to what looks like a couple inches here, like maybe like a foot and an inch of it, a foot and like an inch and a half. And I never noticed that, and once I noticed it, it started bugging me every time I saw these artworks back when I was doing this piece and back when I did the original Petit Dragon lore video. And it's always bugged me, and I probably should have fixed it here, but I just wanted to stick to like as close to the original as I could. But here is the part where I start doing the golden part of the hilt. Yeah. No, I kind of just covered with a yellow golden rectangle at this point. I mess up a little bit here, but I go back and fix it later, which is honestly one of my favorite things about acrylic paints, is that if you just let it dry, you can go back and fix almost any mistake you make, ever, really. It's just a matter of painting over it. Here, that right there, which just happened, a little black smudge, that is what happens when you don't let it dry before you try fixing it. I assumed that the water I used for the background would be dry by now, but it wasn't. And it caused that black smudge, so I just didn't touch that piece at all. I went back and did the shading for the other pieces. The original artwork uses just a straight black and white to do the shading, and I tried it here and I didn't really like how it turned out, so I just went with a darkened gold by just mixing in a little bit of tan instead of black, and I mixed in a little bit of white into the yellow and then put that on the piece instead of just putting straight white. The black you see on the left is me trying to mimic it a little bit, but it didn't really work out, because I guess this digital art doesn't really translate well to acrylic when your acrylic paints are being used up like that. So I just let it dry a little bit and I went over it with the tan golden color instead. Although, now that I think about it, I should probably buy some golden paints. I've kind of just been using a lighter tan mixed with yellow to do any gold on any pieces. Should probably look into that now that I think about it. But anyway, I messed up a little bit on the bottom right side of it, where I just kind of went straight black, and I painted over some of the background that I shouldn't have, and I painted over some of the blue notches that are connecting the two little spikes to the central hilt. But again, I go back and fix it. I think here is, I believe, when I fix it. Yeah, right there, I go back with the red and go over it. I'm very glad I did the red background first, because first of all, it gave it enough time to dry, and it allowed me to just more freely do the fire. Now here, the fire is one of my favorite things to paint, like in general. If you were to see some of my older pieces, back from when I used to paint a lot of it has fire, because I really like painting fire with acrylics, because it's a very natural, flowing thing to translate to the acrylic medium. So here, this is how I usually paint all of my fire. I start with the yellow, and I kind of just slowly water down and mix into the oranges, go to the red oranges, and finally top it off with the red. I don't really do blue fire all that much, and I probably should at some point. But right here, instead of following the exact lines that I drew, I kind of just decided to just go wild and just see whatever looks good, and kind of just went over it with orange. Like right here, I followed it a little bit, but I kind of just went off. Whatever the paintbrush went, it went, and I just went with it. And I think that's the best way to paint fire, is to just let the paintbrush go and let it look what most naturally looks best, not what you drew. Because when you think about drawing fire, you want it to not look too crazy, you don't want it to look too uniform, so you think about it too much. When you're painting fire, you really shouldn't be thinking at all. You should kind of just let it go. So I went here and I kind of just started swooping here, putting a little twirl here, darkening a little bit. Here's where I start putting in the darker red and orange. Kind of just little fire cowlicks all over the place. And I love drawing fire. I think I might make a video where I just show you guys all of my older art pieces. And that will honestly be pretty fun. Let me know if you guys wanna see that. I have a bunch of acrylic paintings from like when I was in high school and later college. And I also have some line art and pencil drawings that I did in middle school that aren't really good. But we can laugh about them together, and I think I might do that. If you guys are interested, just let me know. Yeah. So, I'm just gonna say I did it. To all my coworkers and all my friends, I posted another Petit Dragon video. Hopefully this is what you were looking for. I didn't go too crazy with it, but yeah, it was fun. I am never gonna be able to live that down. The fact that video, that 2-minute video that I did when I was like 15, is at a level of success above every single other thing I've ever done in my life. And I laugh about it so much. And I'm grateful, because I love the fact that people watch it and love it. It's still currently gaining more views per day than any other video I've ever made. So I think I'm gonna say that I'm successful on YouTube when I create a video that matches that Petit Dragon video that I did a couple years ago. If I ever do that, I think I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be proud of myself, and I'm gonna be happy with this channel if anything I make from now on hits that level. Anyway, here I finished the painting. I did the little swoops of fire, and I think I forgot to add my signature, and I add that in a little bit later. Yeah, I think right here is when I add my signature. Just a little CDM for Carlos Daniel Marquez. And here's the final piece, and thank you for watching, guys. Like and subscribe if you like this, and I'll see you next time.